Hey, it's Leah Henry, and you're tuning into Black Girls in Media Conversation Series.
We are excited for you to tune in to tonight's Live for Black Girls in Media. We have the one, the only, Leah Henry. She is a radio personality on 93.9, and that's what on who? WKYS. No. She's been on Fox 5, featured on Good Day DC, and Spilling the Tea on Fox Soul. Okay, and there's been plenty more. So before we jump into the interview, okay, we're going to jump into a segment called I'm Black and I'm Proud.
So very easy.
Yes, honey. So I'm going to say I'm Black and I'm proud of, and you fill in that blank. So Leah, what are you Black and proud of?
Dang, man. Okay. I'm Black and I'm proud of my growth. Okay? Growth.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm glad that you just did just that, a cliffhanger. So you already know what we about to be doing here. So before we jump in, I got to let them know I did a lot of research on you, Leah Henry. And to be honest, the utmost respect, the grind. You know, when I look into like your story and how you've done things, you talk about not just the glitz and glamour, but the grind it took for you to get to where you're at. And that is so appreciated because so many people won't do just that because they're scared that, I guess it won't look that glamorous, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
So you guys are going to get some gems from Leah Henry. I already know because I'm so excited and pumped about this story we are going to uncover. We're definitely going to talk about Howard University because that is something that helped major media industry. So let's get started. You are from Austin, Texas, graduated from Howard University. And with that being stated, I want to talk about a caption that you had on IG. And it was, Howard was your dream school and your first real dream you accomplished. Pause. So when I first seen this statement, I was so intrigued because I wanted to know, like, why was this your first real dream? So we did a little bit of digging and we realized that you applied for Howard. And when you applied, you didn't get accepted in on your very first try. So when you see graduated or you see that you're alum, most people think, oh, she got in, that was it. That wasn't your story, and I love it because when we uncover all of this, you're going to see the flower that bloom, baby. Right. So when you didn't get accepted to Howard, you went to a college in Connecticut. And then in this college in Connecticut.
Come on, research. Hold on. We got to pause. Come on, research. I love research. Okay, sorry. Okay,
Let's do it. You went to a college in Connecticut, and this is what I love. This is another quote that you said, one of my favorite quotes from attending your college in Connecticut, and you got, it created a different level of focus for me. It wasn't what I wanted, but what I needed. Howard told me no once, but not again. This statement spoke to my soul, girl.
Do I be writing books and not knowing? I don't even remember saying that.
You said it, girl. And you said this in the interview, your previous interview. And this interview came up, like I did my research already, and it came up last night. You added it, and I was like, I'm watching the whole thing, and we're gonna make sure we put this in here, okay? So this statement you spoke definitely spoke volumes to me. So Leah, reflecting on that moment, can you give us some tips on how to not let any no define our journey?
Yeah, I mean, and what I said still stands true. When I went to that school in Connecticut, my goal when I was a senior in high school, you couldn't tell me that I was not going to go to Howard, that I was not going to be a Howard girl and go be the host on campus and do all these things. And then I didn't get in and I had no plan. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I remember going to my mom and telling her, listen, I'm going to just go to Austin Community College. I'll go to University of Texas. We'll call it a day and we'll move on. You know what I mean? And that was the moment where I was like, you know what? And my mom was like, no, girl, that's not an option. You get out this house. She was like, because leaving and going to school was the best decision I ever made. And at the time, I didn't understand what she meant by that until I left. And, you know, even then, when I was there in Connecticut, I was miserable. I hated it, but I made really great friends. And it taught me a lot about the hustle. Like when I got to school, I'll never forget, I have this English professor, and he had told me when I would write, he was like, when you write, I hear everything that you write in
Mm.
your voice. Like there's no distinction. Like sometimes you can pick up a sheet of paper and read something and you don't know who it's from. He was like, but you write just like you. And I didn't know how to take it. I thought it was bad, right? Like I don't pick up Emily Dickinson and think I hear her voice. So I didn't know what that meant, but I do know that when I applied to Howard the second time and read my essay compared to the first time, I was like, well, God, no wonder I didn't get in because this is trash. Why didn't anybody tell me? But again, that was so pivotal to my growth. You know what I mean? Because when I was at that school in Connecticut, I was an advertisement major. I was really petrified of the idea of pursuing journalism. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I could write well enough. I didn't think, like, not getting into Howard really made me question everything. But when I got there and hated it so bad, I was like, I know that this ain't what I signed up for. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to Howard. They're not going to tell me no again. I was on the phone every week with Howard trying to get in. I mean, it was really a difficult time for me, but that really set the standard for how I moved when I got to Howard. Because now that I think about it, had I gotten into Howard the first time and done it the way that I thought I would I have been as focused? Probably not. I would have been so caught up in what I thought was supposed to be my Howard experience from what I had done that research all those years and thinking that that's what I was going to do. Because Howard was the only school I had applied to at first. I ain't applied nothing else. It was like Howard or nothing. I applied early and got rejected early too. So, you know, when I was doing that, that's all I thought it was. And so when I went through that whole process of going to the school in Connecticut and then transferring, that was the moment where I was like, Leah, you will never let a no stop you from what you're trying to do. And a no just means a not now. And it may not look like the way you think, because had it looked like the way I thought, I would have went to Howard, graduated in 4 years, and then been doing half the stuff that I thought I was going to do. But again, I went to that school and, you know, my dreams were cut short. So I thought. So I was majoring in advertisement, planning to put myself in the commercials that I wanted to produce, because that's all I thought I could do. I was like, no one's going to take a chance on me. No one's going to let me be a media personality or do these things that I feel like I'm supposed to do in front of the camera. So I had sold myself short back then. And then when I got to Howard, I was like, you know what? We're going to major in journalism. It's going to be scary, but we're going to do that. And then we're going to graduate. And, you know, that experience really taught me the power of taking L's and what we think they are. And sometimes how those L's really propel us and prepare us for our next position.
I love that. Yes. And someone did say a no means not right now. That's what they
Yeah.
took from that. And I definitely am taking that as well, because like you said, I was on the phone calling them like, hey, Howard, did y'all not get the application? Like
Well, and they
y'all need
probably
to go
did.
back over.
Okay.
Like I
Probably
love it.
didn't
Like
lost it.
I love that you were like, this is not a no. We're going to figure this out. Some
Yeah.
people take the no and they're like, that's it. But
Yeah.
that wasn't your story, because you ended up graduating from there.
Yeah.
Now you brought up your professor that I did want to talk about in Connecticut that he said I shouldn't be able to hear you in your writing.
Mm-hmm.
So that comment also made you more insecure in your
Mm-hmm.
writing as well. So in retrospect, now as a well-established journalist, do you understand why he made that comment?
Yes and no. Again, I don't even know. I think I was so hypercritical of any criticism back then that I wasn't necessarily aware of. I wasn't even bold enough to question what that meant or why the comment was said. Right? Like I couldn't perceive if he was saying it in a positive way, like your narrative is so strong that I always hear you, or when you're writing an essay, maybe I shouldn't be able to hear you so distinctly. And so I never knew, but I do know that made me way more insecure. It felt like at the time that was just another piece of why I didn't get into Howard, right? Like that was another reason why, because your writing skills wasn't good. You weren't good enough to get in. And, you know, I had a high GPA, so it wasn't like I didn't study my tail off to get it. But, you know, my SAT scores were trash. I'm not a standardized test taker. Still aren't. Mm-hmm. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to do GRE. That's why. But, like, those are things that, you know, it wasn't my ability to learn, because obviously I did get better. And when I got to Howard, my journalism professor was like, oh my God, you're an amazing writer. And that I told her to this day, I was like, Professor Thomas, you don't understand what that did for me, because that was a moment of like God confirming that I was in the right spot, even though I questioned it for a really long time. So yeah.
Man, I love that. I love the genuineness in your answer that you didn't even ask your professor, and it could have been a good way, or it could have been he
Hmm.
meant it in a feedback
Constructive,
way, in
right? Constructive,
constructive
right?
criticism. So yeah, that is awesome. That you shared that with us. So now, since you got through your rough patch of doubting your writing abilities, could you give us any tips on how to become more confident in writing and how to become a better writer?
And I think it's criticism, right? Like, I think that, go to those people who like, I have a friend to this day that I literally reach out to, and I'm like, girl, how'd it sound? I'm gonna read it to you and tell me what you would say. Or I'll put it in a Google Doc and I'll watch her go over it. Or I have some of my professors from Howard still. I still reach out to them.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
not above seeking help. I've learned that through my journey. I'm not above asking somebody, because we're all students. And if you're in any field, you should always be a student of the game. And I tried to continuously make sure that I am practicing and learning and absorbing from people who are higher than me or better than me.
There you go. And keeping in that connection, that is
Yep.
good. And looking for that criticism now, that is dope. So now let's talk about that leap of faith, because you did bring up the fact that you were in advertisement at the school in Connecticut,
Hmm.
and then we switched over to journalism when you went to Howard. So with that transition, there's something else that you stated as well. I was trying to maneuver different ways instead of taking the journey. I felt like that was a gem. And you were talking about that transition to actually say, you know what, I'm going into journalism. I'm getting what's mine.
Yeah.
Could you please elaborate on this? And I feel our viewers can be inspired by this.
Yeah, and it's funny because I actually tweeted about this the other day. I said sometimes people just assume because you want something so bad that you don't have to work for it. People think that
Mm-hmm.
just because, like, I'm good at something or I may have a talent, that I'm supposed to make it just because. And it don't work like that. This thing is not pretty in life for anybody, no matter what field you're in. It's not about that. I was trying to get around it in any way instead of taking the ugly path. And the ugly path is where you meet where you're supposed to be at. And for a long time, I used to be like, I don't get it. Like, I'm talented, right? Like,
Yes.
I feel like people see it, but why don't they see it? Because I hadn't done the work. So trying to go
Mm.
around the darkness that I knew was ahead of me, it's inevitable. You have to do that part.
Love that. Love that. Listen, that is a gem right there. You have to go through to get to. Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
That part.
So that part. So we learned that Howard University is the start of your industry in the no, is your start to the media industry. So reflecting on your career, Howard taught me what true hustle is. And you all watch it play out in my career every day. Howard woman through and through. So I can imagine you need a lot of hustle to remain and to stay consistent in the media industry. So how did Howard teach you your true hustle, and how have you used what you learned at Howard as a stepping stool to become successful in the media industry?
Yeah, no, I give 10,000% of my career to Howard because it really molded me into not only the woman that I am, but the journalist and the media personality that I am. One of my friends used this analogy. She was like, going to Howard is like eating at a five-star restaurant with like plastic utensils. Like, we don't get maybe the best resources to make it work, but we're still at the table. And so, we didn't have maybe what the top journalism schools had, but we had professors who were Howard alum that came back that really poured into us. Like, I remember there was a company-wide, like, a school-wide outage of Wi-Fi, and our journalism professor was like, y'all go to McDonald's and like get this story done, because guess what? When you're in the field, it doesn't matter that the Wi-Fi at the station doesn't work. Like, that's not an excuse. And so it set the
Mm-hmm.
tone for excellence in the way that we had to go about things. There's not oh, well, I guess it does. And I mean, we tried it. We were students. So we was like, Professor Thomas, what you mean? Like, we ain't got no Wi-Fi. McDonald's does. So go across the street and figure it out. And we were in
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's on our laptops looking dumb, trying to figure out how we get it done. But like, that's what it taught me, like the grittiness. And Howard has such an esteem about it. That can be positive and negative at times, but everybody's interning here and doing this and working at the White House. And it makes you have this inner self-reflection where you're like, what the hell am I doing? How can I maneuver? How can I take up space? How can I figure out, how can I sit in these rooms, right? Like, you got people shaking hands with President Obama one day, and I don't know, like, it's
Yes.
just insanity sometimes. And you're forced to kind of look at yourself and like, how can I pivot? How can I maneuver? And then on top of the fact that I did not get in, for me, everything that I did there had to be intentional, because it felt like I'm on my last leg, right? Like, I didn't get in the first time. So when I'm here, I got to make this count. I'm not going to be here playing around. I'm not going to be here, trying to figure it out. Like, all the organizations that I was in, obviously, like, Howard has huge campus organizations, and all the organizations that I was involved in were media. I was in the student radio station. I was in Spotlight News, which was like our student news station. And I was preparing like shows and packages. And that's where I was learning the essence of like, this is why I'm particular about my craft. This is why I do my craft at a certain level, because I was particular back then. Shout out to Siobhan. She's probably not watching this, but Siobhan was our editor-in-chief in Spotlight. And I mean, it took almost a whole year for me to get one of my stories on Spotlight Network, because she tore our stuff up. I mean, we would leave there mad, talking mess. Like, girl, she didn't have to do our story like that. She could have put it on a little funky website. But again, the level of excellence that was expected from her made us better. And so, I took that into the avenues of where I go in my career. Like, I don't, when I do interviews, I do my research. When I edit things, I got to look a particular way. Like, I'm very, very, very tedious about things like that, due to the fact that I didn't have that choice at Howard. Like, our professors expected it. The organizations I was in expected it. When I was working at the Howard radio station, we worked with HUR. So we had mentors at a real radio station, and they had us doing work for them. I can't mess up HUR's money because I didn't put a show in. That's my job. So it just, again, ingrained so much in me from so many different facets. But Howard, for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, I wouldn't be sitting here talking for real without Howard.
I love that. I love that. And I love how you said Howard was like, listen, there's no internet, there's no excuse. It still got to be done. I'll help you out. Go to McDonald's if you really want it done. Because it's going to show you, it's going to weed out the people that just want to do it just to want to do it. No, this has to be a passion. Because
does.
Like you said, it ain't always pretty. So you're going to have to keep getting up. So it's awesome to see that a school could pour that much into you and teach you so many life lessons and be able to take it through your life, but through your career. So very big of Howard. Leah, I mean, everyone on here knows that you can be heard on 93.9 WKYS. And I also love this. When you went to Howard, you went to the interest meeting, to the radio interest meeting. And then when you see everything they were doing, you was like, oh, I don't know about this. Yeah. So my question is, you almost didn't pursue radio, but you did, and you're great at it. So what does it take to become a radio personality, and what kind of changed your mind to say, you know what, I'm going right in? Like, why not?
Right. Yeah, well, it's funny because I feel like my whole life people have always told me either I should be on TV, I have a voice for radio, like based upon those things. And when I got to Howard, they had the interest meeting for the campus radio station. And I remember like getting there, and the applications were due, and I walked by the station and I was like, no, I can't do it. Again, I really had PTSD from failing, even though I was there. Isn't that crazy? You could sit in your gift and still not believe it. Ooh, that was a word. Come on, somebody.
Yes.
But you can get to the place that you think you're supposed to be in and still doubt yourself so much. I really believed that I could not be on air. Like, and, I love pop culture. I love entertainment, but I really believed at that point that like, maybe I'm not supposed to. There was 80 people in that meeting. It's 20 slots. Should I even put an application in?
Wow.
I really sat there and talked myself out of it. And, that was one of those points for me where I was like, dang, I wish I would have done it. I did it the next semester, fell in love with radio, fell in love with talking, fell in love with the debate, the conversation. And then I was like, okay, wait, this is where it's at. Like, this is what I want to do, because I think that, obviously I did journalism, so that's more hard news, politics. And I wasn't really sure when I switched my major over, but I knew I wanted to be on camera or in the media, sphere. So I was like, oh, nah, like, I'm not going to be nobody's reporter. I'm gonna be on the radio. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because for me it was like, would I rather talk about Kim K's butt being fake or talk about kids dying in a car crash at 6 o'clock in the morning? I was
Mm-hmm.
like, nah, that's not me. That's not me. I want to do radio. I want to have fun. I like engaging. I like interviewing. And so that's where it blossomed from there. But again, I really walked by and I talked myself clean out of something that I did for the rest of my duration at Howard, just because I was in my space, but I wasn't comfortable in it.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
And you know, I hope what people get from this is that I wanted to bring forth that question because you're doing radio. You're doing
Yeah.
amazing. You have the voice. So to be able to see someone already doing it and question themselves before, like you said, I was sitting in my gift and was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know if
Yeah.
I could do this. There's
Yeah.
many people on the end of this screen that's feeling the same type of way that are, you know, you're pouring into them to know I can do this. You know what
You
I'm saying? The
can.
gift is the lies within self. You just have to put the work in. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Now I definitely want to get into our game segment. We have a game
Ooh,
segment.
okay.
So um if you had the option to have all the money all the time and you got to put your team together, what would be your dream project you would like to work on?
I want to be a talk show host. So the Leah Henry show is something I want to be a daytime talk show host. I always said that like daytime TV changed my life, so I always wanted to do that for someone else. You know, when you watch daytime TV, even though it is dying a little bit now, when you watched Ellen, she gave money away. When you watch Nick Cannon, he just
Mm-hmm.
paid the debt off of like 6 college HBCU students. Like that type of thing, you get those type of resources when you do things like that, and you have a platform. And so that's something that I always wanted to do and I still want to do. So yeah, if money was no object, the Leah Henry show today.
Period. Now, also, who would you like to work with that's already in the industry? I already know. Let's get it. You Oprah daughter, so
Yup.
you would have Oprah
No.
on there somewhere, right?
Yup. She's my EP for sure. Off top.
Who's your
Yeah, Oprah.
producer? Who's your writers?
Um, to be honest, I'm real big. Like shout out to Issa Rae on the We Network, you know, horizontally, not vertically, because you know a lot of times people think that like I've met
Mm-hmm.
so many amazing producers. I've met so many amazing people at social media. There have been so many people who have given me opportunities in this industry that like I'll never forget. Like I'm one of those people. I never forget what people have done for me. I know what it's like to be looked over. I know what it's like to have talent and people not see it in you. So I literally know that like when I get on my opportunity to put people on, everybody who looked out for me gonna be on in some way. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna make sure of it. So that's my goal. Like to really, I just know so many talented people from working in this industry, and they're not the person who everybody knows. It might just be, you know, the person who came in quiet but is hilarious on Twitter that could write your jokes for your monologues. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like
Uh-huh.
those are things that, you know, I think about. And being a producer, I already have a mind of production, so I always see things a little differently anyway.
Ooh, I like that. Not leaving behind the people that help you get to where you are. There
Absolutely.
we go. Okay, we not
Absolutely.
getting brand new.
Per.
So we have to talk about you being the creator and producer of Leah's Lemonade. You have turned this into a brand, baby, okay?
Ciao.
And I love it. You said you brought about from the pandemic. And also we have to shout out your professor Thomas, who helped you
Mm-hmm.
name the show Leah's Lemonade.
Mm-hmm.
When I
Mm-hmm.
heard that, I was like, man, this is catchy. I like it. And you're spilling the tea, honey. So what inspired you to create this platform and brand?
So it's funny. So I was working at the news station that I was working at the time, and I was just trying to get my foot in the door in radio. So I actually have volunteered to help a morning show here at KYS, and I was coming in before I would go to work. It goes back to that hustle and that drive. Like I was doing
There
it
we
for free. I
go.
had a full-time producing job, wasn't making nothing, but I still had my full-time job, and I was going to the radio station at like 5 a.m, helping them with their show, and then driving to my TV show. And one day they were like, hey, we need somebody funny. We need something funny on our show. You're funny, so just come be funny. I said, what do you mean just come be funny? Like what
Yeah.
how does one just come on and be funny? Like So I started calling everybody I knew, right? And I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, what do y'all think I should do? And I talked to that professor, and she was like, be yourself. Like, give your delivery, do you. And I was like, but how do I do that on the radio? Like, I don't have no, like, what do I do? And she was just like, your delivery is hilarious. Just be you. And I was like, okay. I was like, I don't even know what to call it. And she was like, people love alliteration. So like maybe Leah's Lemonade. And I was like,
Ooh.
girl, ew, no. I was like, no, people already say the T thing. It's a little
Uh-huh.
whack. It's a little overkill. I don't know if I want to do that. She's like, I mean, I don't know. So I went into the radio station as we were like talking about it. And I said, I had talked to somebody, and she was like, let's call it Leah's Lemonade. And she told me, she's like, I love that. That's what we're going to call it. It's going to be called Leah's Lemonade. And I was like, huh? Are you sure? She was like, yep, we love that. Everybody was like, yep, we love it. Leah's Lemonade. That's what we're going to call it. And I was like, okay. And so that was the start of that. I did Leah's Lemonade. It wasn't entertainment, but I did a feature called Leah's Lemonade on that show for a while. Then they took me off, and I continued to just keep the brand because I had built a small at the time little brand. And I was like, that'll just be my thing. I give lemonade. It's not the tea. It's a little more tart. The lemonade,
There we
we'll just
go.
keep it moving. And that's where it started. And, in 2020, it got legs and ran off without me. I was not expecting what took place in 2020 to even happen to me. But that's how it got started, child.
Man, when I heard it, I was like, this is catchy. I'm liking it. I'm surprised you didn't like it, Leah.
Oh,
I'm like,
no, I did
Leah,
not.
L, lemonade, you sipping, you spilling tea. Like, this is
Mm-mm.
everything. It's given.
I hated it. I was like, ew, Leah's Lemonade. Okay. Like, what is, okay.
And now it's just taking off. And it's just
No, yeah, for sure. People come
just
up to
doing,
me and say, hey, Leah's Lemonade. I'm like, dang, it ain't no Leah Henry or nothing. Y'all just want to
no,
say,
nothing. Listen, I love it. So we have to talk about how Leah's Lemonade and the transition and all this stuff. So let's jump into you interviewing one of your media moguls, which is Wendy Williams.
yes.
And she also, not only did you get to have an exclusive interview with her, you also had a feature on her show when they talked about your interview with the Inside Scoop with
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Knowles.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get to Matthew Knowles, let's talk about that moment when you got to interview Wendy Williams, and how did you feel to actually have your Leah's Lemonade a feature on one of her segments?
Yeah, no, that felt very full circle and very divine for me. Because when I had got the email to interview her, I couldn't believe it. I was like, nah, this ain't about to happen for me. Like, who am I? Who am I to even, speak to her? And then the other thing about Wendy Williams is, she don't care. Like, you come correct or you don't come at all, because she will
Mm-hmm.
pipe you down. And I, pride myself on being able to ask good questions. But again, you come at Wendy Williams sideways and she'll cut your neck. So I was like, oh, Jesus, just please let this come out well. And it went well. But yeah, it was crazy that I got to interview her, because that was at the top of the pandemic, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. You know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I freaking got Wendy Williams, to even ask her a question. And then, going into the whole Matthew Knowles situation when it was featured on her after show, I was like, okay, God, like, I feel like there are times that I have to have reminders, and God sends me those reminders in certain things. God just, nudges me and is like, assignment. And that was like a moment where it felt very full circle when I
Yeah.
saw myself, like, even being a part of that sphere and that conversation. I was blown away. Couldn't believe it.
Now, did you have to pitch yourself to her, or did they just
She
write
was
you to
doing
do it?
promo for her
Okay.
biopic, so I didn't have to pitch. I knew the PR for Lifetime. So shout out to PR.
Okay.
I see Matthew Knowles publicist in here, by the way. Hey. But yeah.
Hey, well, hey, we
Hey,
are about
Lynn.
to dive into your viral interviews, and one of
Mm-hmm.
those would be Matthew Knowles, also known
Mm-hmm.
as Beyonce's father.
Mm-hmm.
So, that had Leah's Lemonade trending, as well
Yeah.
for a bit, okay? And you asked him, for the people that may not know, you asked him if there was a comparison. Did he see the comparison between Chloe Bailey and Beyonce. And you know, he stated, people must be an idiot to compare when it comes to the talent. Now, I think that because Beyonce is so dear and close, possibly, you know, that's where that came from. However, my main point was you had gotten backlash from people because of Matthew No's response. And what I wanted to put an emphasis on was the class that you had when you made your remark back and you said, I have a journalism degree. I ask questions. I don't put answers in people's mouths. He responded the way he responded. So with that stated, we always know that people are going to critique us. They're going to have assumptions from whatever they want to make of. So as a journalist, how do you navigate the backlash? How did you navigate the backlash at that moment, but also if there may be any future backlash?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you go viral once and it doesn't have to be for an interview as controversial as mine, and you'll realize how nasty people can be in comments and in you know, the peanut gallery can just be disgusting. But, you know, specifically, obviously Beyonce is so revered that anything with her comes with a different set of energy and attack to it. So, I mean, I couldn't even, to be honest, you know, really, my soul left my body when that interview, it was a live interview, so there was nowhere to go. You know what I mean? Like when that happened, it happened, and there was hundreds of people to see what happened. And I personally was just like, okay, Leah, whatever you do, don't lose your composure. You know what I mean? Wherever this ride goes, we gonna sit on it and we gonna finish it until it's up, until they take the buckles off the ride and say arms up. Okay, we gonna ride this thing out. And so, you know, I knew instantly by his reaction it would go viral. To be honest with you, I really knew the question would go viral either way it went. I did not expect him to respond in that manner. But I did expect the question to go viral just because I knew that Chloe was being looked at the way she did. And so, yeah, again, with that viral type of interview, that wasn't my first viral interview. That was probably my first like internationally crazy viral interview. But I already knew that when you don't side or you say something that doesn't, you know, line up and skew with what their fans feel, you're going to get the backlash. So I've just learned genuinely not to read the comments. Like it just is what it is. And of course people DM you, they're weird and crazy, but I just be like, you know what, it is what it is. And to be honest, if one of my craziest moments of interviews changed the whole trajectory of my career, I'll take it.
Okay, there we go. Take it. But I also like that you said that you don't read the comments, so you're not going to even go into that to even put your energy in that place. So
yeah. Well, and it took time. It took time.
Okay.
You know, the first couple interviews, I was in there arguing with people because I was like, why would you say something? Oh, yeah. Because that's one thing I'm not above. Okay. Like, if I feel like something you say is really crazy, then I will address it. But then when I find myself going back and forth with somebody who don't know me from a can of paint, then I'll be like, all right, Leah, you gotta separate yourself. And now, like I said, especially after the Matthew Knowles one, and especially after the Lisa Ray one, where there was comments about Nicki Minaj and her fans are insane. I've just learned just separate yourself because people will say anything to get your blood pressure up. So
yeah, I agree. So I want to congratulate you on all the success that you have thus far.
Thank you.
You're doing amazing. And you're doing it so gracefully and no matter what is thrown at you, okay? So I have to ask you, what is next, or what do you hope to be next for Leah Henry?
That's a good question. I'm definitely in a transition space in my career right now. I'm trying to figure it out, and I don't know, but I do know that like I've told myself that like I'm really trying to practice the art of like non-attachment. Like what's for me will come to me, and what's not, it's just not meant to be. And I think like when you're working in media or you're working in any field or any situation, to be honest, if you really start to sit in a space where you believe that genuinely what has your name on it, you don't get bitter about people getting other opportunities. You don't get upset when people overlook you. You don't get upset when things don't go your way, because when you really operate from the system that what is for me, you don't have to feed off of that. You don't believe that anything else can stop what is supposed to divinely come to you. So that's where I'm at in my career. You know, obviously I still do interviews. I'm still doing corresponding and different things like that. But as the opportunities come to me, that's what's meant for me.
I love that. I knew you were going to give me something like that. I knew it. But that's awesome, because like I know when people do ask you, what do you see yourself in 3 years? You're like, listen,
Mm-hmm.
whatever God has for me, because
Yep.
God always seizes to amaze what I even think I have outlined.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Yeah.
I do love that answer though. Like, what is for me is for me, and nobody can take that. And when you
Yep.
understand that, there's no need to have to feel like you sad or you feel like you left
Mm-hmm.
out, because if it's coming, and it's coming pouring, baby.
And it
You
got
ain't
your
got to
name on
worry
it.
about it.
It got your name on it already. So
Mm-hmm. Put in the box, put a bow, and when it's time to
per
open, you shall receive.
exactly.
Okay, so the media industry is a male-dominated field. So, what has been your experience and as being a Black woman in the industry, and obviously, being a woman, being a Black woman and a woman?
Yeah, I mean, it's ghetto, to be honest. I've learned in this industry that men don't have to be talented to succeed. I
Hmm.
also in this industry, clout is first and foremost at the front of the lines. I'll tell
Hmm.
you this, like just even watching people's perception of how they treat me after this Matthew Knowles interview, you know what I mean? People weren't checking for me before that. But again, I had been doing the work. I had been doing interviews. I had been
Hmm.
showcasing my skills. And so, with women, it's unfortunate because I just watched so many of my colleagues be the brains of the operation, but
Yeah.
take a back seat to a male. If you've ever noticed, when it comes to shows with that have multiple people, typically a woman is a sidekick. You rarely ever see shows that are women centered, that have, males on the show as well. So to be honest, it's a bit frustrating at times. You know what I mean? It can be, and it's unfortunate. Um, and I just hope that, millennials are really changing the landscape of work environments. So I really hope we start to see a paradigm shift. Because again, if you're a talented male, by all means, you deserve your space.
Yes.
But a lot of times, especially in media, I'm finding that a lot of times the mouthpieces are the men, but the brains of the operation are women. And so I just really
Hmm.
hope that moving forward, we'll start to see a shift where we can see more women in the spotlight and more women being able to really utilize their gifts in front of the camera. That's why, like, being a producer was never going to work for me long term, because being a producer is I create the concept, I come up with the idea, and then I hand it over to whoever is the talent. And while that's necessary for something to be constructively done, it didn't
Hmm.
feel fair to me. Now, I have producer friends who love it. They want to stay behind the scenes.
Uh-huh.
They don't want to do it. But I sat back as someone who does want to be in front of the camera and was like, bruh, I can't keep pouring of myself into somebody else's pot. And again, it's not always about the accolades or the hand claps. But again, in media, being a producer is a thankless job. And sometimes being a woman is a real thankless job. People don't even appreciate what you bring to the table sometimes until you're gone or until it's not an option anymore. So
Wow.
I just keep that in perspective. It's a very unkiltered space, but I just hope that moving forward, we'll start to see more women in roles that are willing to change. Because the other thing that comes with it is age. Right now, even if there are women in charge, they come from an old school mentality. I really hate the idea of the hazing system that happens in media. People feel like because
Hmm.
they've been through horrible experiences that they have to put younger people through that, or you have to go through that to feel that. Why not you as a superior take your experience and make sure nobody else ever goes through that again, instead of inflicting
Yes.
the pain and the dirty games that the media industry is already going to play. Why would you not secure the next generation? That's the problem.
Yeah.
Legacy is not as strong as it should be. I can't remember who was talking about it, but if someone was like, yo, legacy is about having people that come behind you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when Wendy's gone, Charlemagne will sit there. And then when Charlemagne raises the next person, it'll be somebody. It's always evident who has real legacy by who they have coming up behind them. And I just think
Mm-hmm.
the industry has to shift, because we need more people, especially in Black media, that are willing to help each other out instead
Yes.
of putting people through a perpetual hazing cycle. It's a little whack to me. So, male or female, I'm hoping once millennials get in the workspace, we'll be able to tweak that a bit, because it's an unfortunate cycle that I feel like really cuts off talent. There are people who are just one mentor away from being great.
Wow. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for speaking that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Whew. Whew. So before you go, we just need one more gem. I know we've been taking gems. We've been
Girl,
taking
I'm
gems.
here.
So
Listen, I'm here. I'm at work. You see, I'm in the studio.
I
Child, I
see you,
got all
girl.
night.
What advice would you give a woman of color in the media industry trying to grow their brand or platform? Or what would you give someone that's trying to start their journey in the media industry?
Yeah, it's crazy. I just had a conversation with a girl the other day who just kind of felt lost. And I think that what people have to understand is it is okay to have people that you look up to. It's okay to have people that you admire, but your journey is your journey. And I think we get so caught up, and social media makes us feel so like we got to compare ourselves, and so got this and so got that. But it goes back to what I was saying earlier about understanding when your name is on stuff, that you don't have to operate in a panic space. You can sit down and focus, because a lot of times it's about building your craft, making connections. Are you going the extra mile? I think, again, going back to that hustle from Howard, it really made me gritty and hungry in a way that I think that's how I surpass other people who have bigger brands than me, or are on these syndicated shows, are on these radio shows, because of the fact that I'm willing to do the work when no one else is. And I just think that a lot of times people get so caught up in the appearance, the way I don't want to do the podcast because no one's going to listen. I don't want to ask the local rapper because he's not Diddy. Yeah, but you can't get to the Diddies until you mess with D-Bop in the hood in Southeast, who got a song that the kids are listening to at school or on TikTok. People don't understand that you really have to work at your craft in a way that you're perfecting it until your moment. Oprah has a thing, and I've been meaning to look this up because I've been trying to quote her without looking it up. But she's like, preparation meets opportunity. And that's where like everything is. You have to prepare for your moment, so when you get there, you don't fumble the bag. You have to make sure that you're really there and you're ready to execute when you're called. So, those are the things that I think that people get so caught up in what other people's journeys are that they don't realize that you're not going to get into radio the same way Leah got into radio. There's some people who look cute and just get into radio. There's some people who work their tail off for years and go to small cities and built their way up to get where I'm at. There's people who've been at my station 10 years. You know what I mean? Like it really, everybody's journey is different. And so instead of focusing on how you can be the next blank, be the first you, and be really good at being the first you. So yeah.
Okay, Leah. Okay, you didn't have to do it like that though.
Yeah,
you made sure you packed that thing up. Okay,
you know what I'm saying? That's all you gotta do.
But I love that. Like, focus on being your best you. That's definitely what I got from that. And like you said, you gotta do the intro stuff before you try and do the expert stuff. People want to jump in. Listen, like, I want to interview Diddy. Like you said, you may need to go interview D-Bop. You know what I'm saying? Because you may get that, and like you said, you do not want to fumble it.
The bag.
Because once you fumble it, now you now trying to figure out your next play.
Yep.
And if you already was working on your stuff, you'd been ready for what was to come. Yeah. So that's big. Yeah. I just want to thank you for coming on today. You definitely gave us some gems, and I appreciate your journey and how you keep pressing on next. You gotta keep applying that pressure. That TV show is yours, okay?
I received that. I received all of that. I received all of that. Okay, I received all that. Oh, sorry, I've been reading the comments. Somebody said, could they ask a question? Yeah, just shoot it in the comments real quick.
Yeah,
And
shoot it in the comments. Shoot it in
yeah,
the
and
comments.
then she said a D-Bop may be a Diddy one day now, and that, you got that connection. And that's real too. You never know who people are going to be in 5 years. That's why a lot of radio personalities mess up. They don't want to talk to these artists that got one song, and you don't know what longevity looks like for anybody. You may think they just popped up on the scene because of a TikTok song, but they might be on for several years. Nobody thought Drake from Degrassi was going to be who he was.
And look at him.
You know how many people probably played Drake at the beginning? There's like this little Canadian actor that Lil Wayne co-signed. Who was he? And now look, we can't go nowhere without talking about Champagne Poppy.
No, we can't. No, we can't.
Period. So I guess they didn't comment it. Or maybe they left.
Right? I wasn't there to look. But again, Leah, I want to thank you again. And this will be coming out pretty soon. So make sure you look at the full effect of everything going on. But again, thank you. Thank you for blessing us today. Okay?
Yes, thank you for even giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Bye, y'all.
Hey guys, this is Zetta. Thanks for checking out our Media Conversation series episode. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And watch the rest of our Media Conversation videos only on Black Girls in Media.